of Engineering, Nagpur. On behalf of IIT, welcome you all to this webinar on the topic NISP Orientation Session and Formulation ICT I&S Policy, a case study. Respected guest speaker, Professor Padma Devarajan ma'am, Honorable Principal Dr. Nitin Ghaugave sir, Dr. Kshitija Kadam ma'am, President IIC, Institute's NISP Coordinator Dr. JB Randhawa ma'am, and all the faculty members, a hearty welcome to you all. I request Dr. JB Randhawa ma'am to introduce us with speaker. Over to you, ma'am.
You're on mute.
I'm sorry. I'm really feeling proud and privileged to introduce the very eminent researcher and an equally eminent academic present with us today, Dr. Padma V Devarajan. Dr. Mrs. Padma V Devarajan is Dean Research and Innovation. She is professor in pharmacy and a former head of Department of Pharmaceutical Sciences and Technology at the Institute of Chemical Technology, Mumbai. She is also a member of Board of Governors, President of Innovation Council, and in charge of World Bank Technical Education Quality Improvement Program at the Institute of Chemical Technology, which is the only elite university and center of excellence in the state of Maharashtra. As Dean Research and President of Innovation Council, she is leading the innovation initiative at ICT and working tirelessly to set up an ecosystem of ideation, innovation and incubation and entrepreneurship. She has played a leading role in creating innovation and startup policy at ICT, and currently she is formalizing the IPR and technology transfer policy. Her research is in the area of drug delivery with a focus on innovative and affordable healthcare for human and veterinary application. She has guided large number of master and PhD students, and her research group has won numerous awards for excellence in research and innovation. She has many peer-reviewed publications, and her book on targeted drug delivery published by Springer won her Professor N.R. Kamath Book Award at ICT. She has filed many patents at international and national level, has 8 patents granted and 6 patents and technologies licensed, and 2 technologies commercialized. Her research is funded through number of grants from the government and industry, including from Japan, Germany, and USA. She is also a consultant to pharma industry. She was member on board of scientific
There is connectivity issue.
Yes, yes. Oh, she's now totally. Yeah,
Hello?
Yes, yes, please.
I think you were disconnected.
Yeah. I'm sorry, there was some technical issue with my system.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm very sorry for it. She was a board member on the board of scientific advisory and chair of young scientist mentor Protege Committee of the Control Release Society Incorporation USA, and the chair of Outstanding Paper Award Committee of the journal Drug Development and Translational Research of the Control Release Society Incorporation USA. She is patron member of the Control Release Society Indian chapter and member on the editorial board of Asian Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences and the European Journal of Drug Metabolism and Pharmacokinetics. She is the vice president of Society of Pharmaceutical Dissolution Sciences and was earlier the chair scientific program of SPDC. She is also the first woman president of Alumni Association of UDCT, which is now ICT. Professor Devarajan is a gold medalist of Mumbai University at B Pharma, a nominated fellow of Maharashtra Academy of Sciences, and a recipient of American Association of Indian Pharmaceutical Scientists Distinguished Educator and Research Award 2011. The Vasvik Award for Industrial Research to Women in 2011, and the Association of Pharmaceutical Teachers of India, Professor C.J. Shishu Award for Research in Pharmaceutical Sciences. She won the Bengaluru Nano Innovation Award for a nanosystem developed for veterinary infections, the IPA ACG Scientech Award for Innovation in Solid Dosage Form, and the OPII Scientist Award 2018. Her most recent award is from the Vidarbha region. She has won the Punjab Rao Deshmukh Outstanding Women Scientist Award 2019, which is awarded by the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, Government of India. So we are really proud and privileged to have you, ma'am, with us today. And I hope that all of us will get benefited. Rather, I wish that all of us should get maximum benefit of your experience. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Jasmeer Kaur.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, at the outset, let me thank the principal, Dr. Nitin Gaugave, Dr. Jasmeer Kaur, and Dr. Suchita Kadam for inviting me to talk on NISP. I have been involved with creating the policy for ICT and involved, but this is certainly a very new area for me. But last 3 years, I've been leading the innovation initiative formally, but even otherwise, I have been committed to innovation and have been, leading my research group in the direction of innovation. So I'm very happy to be here to present not only the National Innovation and Startup Policy, which has been implemented for all higher education institutions by MHRD and AICTE, but I will also tell you how ICT has used the recommendations in the NISP to create and formalize a policy which could be used by students and faculty and open up the channels for innovation, IPR, entrepreneurship, and create that atmosphere we need in an educational institution by catching students young. So I would like to start sharing my presentation. So is it seen? Is it visible? Could I get a feedback?
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Yeah, it's visible.
All right. So today, as you are aware, I will be talking to you about the NISP, that is the National Innovation and Startup Policy, and also the ICT story. So when you look at any policy that is made by the government, there is always a very, very valid and important reason why a policy is made. And if anybody has even just glanced through the NISP policy, you will see that there are at least 15 huge leaders from the country who are involved in coming up with this final version of the NISP, and there would have been many others who have also contributed. So what is the purpose of this NISP? One is to foster innovation. So what NISP is trying to tell higher education institutions is innovation is important. Please ensure that students are introduced to this concept, to this principle of innovation. It is also paving the way for entrepreneurship so that people can become employers instead of employees. And to ensure both these happen very smoothly, you have a guiding framework for faculty and students that is now out as the NISP document 2019. So the whole reason for the NISP is these multiple calls that have been made by our Prime Minister and the government. Atmanirbhar Bharat is the latest call. So Atmanirbhar Bharat means let us stand on our own feet as Indians. And this has come after a number of calls like the Make in India, Startup India, and the Stand Up India. So all these are important for an Atmanirbhar Bharat, and for an Atmanirbhar Bharat, catching young minds like these is also very important so that in the next 5 to 10 years, India could probably go back to global leadership position. And while we talk of Atmanirbhar Bharat and we talk of higher education institutions which cater to students, yes, but a small fraction that come from rural, Atmanirbhar Bharat must also address the rural requirement. And what is the importance of all this? It is because India today is chasing a $5 trillion economy by 2024. To achieve this, it is important that every Indian is standing on his or her feet or has a job, and no Indian goes hungry without a meal to eat. And it is that chase that has driven the government very visionarily to come up with this policy of innovation and startup, where people are provided the opportunity. So it's not just talk, but it's also action through the policy. So the question is, why innovation and startup? It could just be startup because you start your business and you go ahead. So why innovation? So India as a country has a history of innovation. And if anybody tries to Google Indian innovation or the history of Indian innovation, it's amazing. And that amazing feats that Indian innovators have done centuries ago, which was lost because of centuries of being ruled by invaders, I have tried to capture some important, exciting ones, some which you are aware, some which you're not. For instance, zero. The number 0 was an Indian contribution, and this is very much talked of. And the decimal system continues for ages and will continue for ages. It cannot, it is rare, there's hardly any chance of it being replaced. So this is India's major contribution to world mathematics. The Earth's orbit around the sun was discovered by Indians. Ayurveda, again, something we know, is a contribution of India to the world. Are we aware that the first plastic surgery and the first cataract surgery was done in India by Sushruta? Are we aware that toilet flushing with water, which is something we take for granted today, is also an Indian innovation? And yes, we have heard of the Raman effect, but did we know that the atom was first recognized in India? Stainless steel was first created in India. The microwave is an Indian find, and so many more innovations. So the point is, India has a history of innovation. Indians have the brains for innovation. And then what is the advantage of having a startup? You become employers. So you create employment and you create wealth for the nation. And with everybody focusing on creating wealth for the nation could reach the $5 trillion economy. That is the dream of the current Indians, current Prime Minister, and the current government. So when you're looking at startup, why are we looking at innovation? How are they linked? So I'd like to just quote what the management guru, Shiv Khera, is known to have said. He says you can win. And what are we looking at through innovation and entrepreneurship? We are looking at becoming winners. So he says winners don't do different things. They do the same things differently. So what is important is they do things differently. And I have extrapolated this statement to innovation, where I say innovators don't see different things. They see things differently. So two people may look at the same thing, but one may find something innovative in there and the other may just pass it on as routine. And that is what innovation is about, the ability to see different. And this is something I have been talking and kind of grilling into my research group. I'm a research guide for 25 plus years. And as a result, our lab has a number of us in the pharma space. But I'm not presenting that because I'm talking to an engineering college audience. And I'm not sure you will be able to appreciate those innovations. But yes, this ability to see things differently is what one has to teach the students as a teacher, and students have to learn as young minds. And it is such innovations that can lead to disruptive technologies. So what is a disruptive technology? It is something that's going to change the face of society, change the way the world lives. So like WhatsApp or the mobile phone or starting with the telephone years ago by Graham Bell. And then we have moved on today to this online connectivity that we are having. People sitting in different parts of the globe, reaching out to each other, seeing each other, talking to each other, interacting with each other. All those are disruptive technologies. And some of the leading disruptive technologies of the 21st century, AI, everybody talks of AI. Blockchain, another very important technology that is creating a revolution. 3D printing, dimensions across science and technology, right from all kinds of applications. And then you have virtual and augmented reality. Probably this would be something that is going to be the next gen technology, particularly if this kind of online meetings continue, where you actually feel somebody is right there and you're not there physically, but virtually you feel the presence of each other, almost like a real life presence. And then, of course, Internet of Things, which is capturing every ambit of life. But if you look at all these things, here, where do you have India? You don't have anything from India. And in fact, if you look at India, and if you look at GDP of India, we are 7th in the world. But if you look at India in the innovation ranking, we are nowhere in the first 20. And therefore, having such a wonderful culture and a history of innovation and seeing the lack of innovation today, it's very important for innovation to become a culture. And when we talk of innovation, are we talking only of disruptive technologies being important? No. We're also talking of rural grassroots innovations. And the leader here who's leading this rural grassroots innovation transformation, Professor Anil Gupta. So here I have shown you just some small pictures. This is a grass cutter, which can just be rolled very easily. So because it rolls, it's friction-free and the effort is less. Here is a lady cycling and washing clothes. Here is a man who's found a way to travel across floodwaters to reach from one end to the other, and somebody who's climbing a coconut tree so easily and with a lot of safety around it. Just see this one where somebody is carrying water on her head, but her hands are free and it's so well balanced. So much of innovation is possible in the rural grassroots area, so much of innovation possible in the high-tech space. So where should India go? It should go to both places, because even the rural initiative is suggested as a $50 billion initiative. So there is huge opportunity wherever, whichever space you navigate. So with this now, brief introduction of why we need to innovate, why India needs to innovate. Let me come to the National Innovation and Startup Policy and try and address what are the aspects this policy covers, how comprehensive it is, and how it has looked at every fine detail to ensure that the policy works, and the policy is a great starter and a great initial anti-friction to innovation. So while we're looking at the National Innovation and Startup Policy, I will be discussing only the gist of it and not too many fine details, but you would get a good picture. And the National Innovation and Startup Policy, if we say NISP, it gives a lot of recommendations on what is to be done. And based on that, ICT has drafted the policy and it's already approved by the Board of Governors. It's already on our website. So I will also present to you the ICT story and also present you towards the end some case studies on some success stories in the field of innovation, which are very minimal and related only to IIC. But otherwise, we have a huge number of innovations. So what is the vision of the NISP? It has been introduced with this vision to achieve the $5 trillion economy by 2024. And a visionary thought says that you engage students, faculty, and staff of higher education institutions, because this is the place where there is learning. This is the place where minds are molded. So if you come into the space where minds can be molded, you can mold them into innovation and entrepreneurship related activities, so that becomes a bent of mind, and India could go back to those generations ago where it was a leader of world innovations. It would also facilitate MHRD to bring uniformity across HEIs in terms of ownership of the intellectual property, so that there is a kind of uniform base and there is no high or low in case of IPR, like some institutes promote it in one way, others promote it another way. So there is a general guideline so that within an ambit institutes can promote. And NMHRD is also recommending that institutes implement this institutional startup policy and therefore create a robust innovation and startup ecosystem across HEIs. So this is the vision of the government and the MHRD in creating the NISP. So here in the slide, you have the gist of the NISP. So what is the gist? What does it cover? It covers various strategies and governance to ensure that the policy is implemented in the right direction. It suggests startup enabling institutional infrastructure, which means academic institutions should start promoting startups, nurture startups, and help them grow. Nurturing innovations and startups. Innovations form the seed for startups. So without innovation, there could be no idea and no business. So whatever be the business, it may be a technology business or it may be a marketing business like Amazon. Today, sitting at home, we just click buttons and we have material, huge parcels reaching home. That again is innovation. And innovation converted to a startup. So innovation need not be creating a technology, creating a high-tech car or a self-driven car or a battery-operated car. It could be anything across the space, but it should have social relevance and societal relevance. And why does the NISP say nurture? Because these innovations and startup need a lot of patience. They need a lot of passion, a lot of commitment. And to ensure that people who enter that space are able to walk through that, they really need to be nurtured and treated like babies, pampered, and continuously counseled. The other important aspect in the NISP is the product ownership rights for IPR, because there's always this feeling when I have created something, I have the right to get something back. So that right is protected here. Then you have NISP talking about organizational capacity and human resources, and also incentives to attract people, because the human mind is such that it always, in most cases, chases rewards. And these kind of incentives would certainly attract many more into the space of innovation. And creating an innovation pipeline and pathways for entrepreneurs at the institute level is another recommendation of the policy. So create a modus operandi by which anybody who steps in can keep walking up the ladder, up the pathway to entrepreneurship, and if possible, to complete commercialization. So that is very, very important. So starting with strategies, all the way you convert maybe students or even faculty into entrepreneurs, and along the way support them by nurturing, giving them their rights, having human resource support, etc. So this is the gist of the NISP, and we will take a look at each of these points, but in very small detail. So when you look at strategies and governance, what does it encompass? It encompasses entrepreneurship, promotion, and development on one hand. So you have to promote entrepreneurship, meaning you have to tell students and faculty that you can become entrepreneurs, the institute will support you. Most institutions did not allow this at one time, saying it would affect the studies, it would affect the faculty, and faculty were not allowed any other kind of earning through entrepreneurship. So all that is now changing through governance, which is very, very important to open the doors for entrepreneurship. Development of an entrepreneurial ecosystem. So there would be multiple ways of doing it. One simple way is to bring in a lot of entrepreneurs, preferably alumni, preferably young alumni, and get them to talk to students and faculty to create that interest, excitement, and therefore the ecosystem. Implementation of the entrepreneurial vision should be achieved through mission statements. So a lot of statements to be put up across the institute so that people look at entrepreneurship as one more option in their career path. Of course, finance is important, so have a plan in place for resource mobilization. Importance of the innovation and entrepreneurial agenda to be propagated among students, particularly also among faculty, because while one is creating wealth for the nation, one is also creating wealth for the institute and for oneself. So it's a win-win situation. And have the student faculty policy and action plan, which is something ICT has already done. And strategic international partnership should be developed. And you must promote innovation and entrepreneurship even in society. So these last 2 points could come in as a slightly longer term vision, but the first few points have to be there right at the beginning when one is going to initiate innovation and startup in the institute. How does one enable startup enabling institutional infrastructure? So you create within the institution support for pre-incubation, and the first step would be to create the MHRD's innovation cell, which ICT has done, and also Government College of Engineering, Nagpur, where we are now, where I am now your guest. So I'm very happy to know that you also have an innovation cell. You can have an entrepreneurship development cell, an innovation and entrepreneurship development cell. It is left to the institute how you want to look at it. You can also have a new gen IEDC and have something very different that you look at. You can have a startup cell, you can have student clubs, you can have very many other kind of ideas, which I will show you when I show you the ICT policy. An incubation cum technology commercialization unit must follow, and preferably as a separate entity, because many times institutions, particularly government institutions, may not be allowed to play the role of this commercial unit. Then you can also offer mentoring and other relevant services through pre-incubation or incubation, so that you enable the startup. And of course, this could be in return for fees, it could be equity sharing, or it could be zero payment basis, it could be totally honorary. So it depends on who you involve in this. At ICT, we are trying our level best to involve alumni. So alumni don't charge the alma mater. Of course, Government College of Engineering is a very new college. You may not have alumni, but I can offer support of ICT to Government College of Engineering through the institute and through our alumni also. The next aspect is the nurturing. So nurturing the students, nurturing the faculty, nurturing the staff. Your staff is some temporary project staff who may be working on some research projects. Nurturing could also be of alumni who want to come into ICT and set up a startup, or also startup applicants from outside institutions, which would happen as one moves along. So nurturing would involve giving incubation support. So you allow them space to work in the institute. You also allow licensing of IPR from institute to the startup. For instance, if a faculty has an idea or a student has an idea which they've developed in the institute, suppose another student is willing to take that as a startup, you should allow that licensing from student A to student B, or faculty A to faculty B, or student B at a very small fee. And that is when you'll be nurturing. If you talk of huge sums, it's not nurturing. You will allow setting up a startup and part-time working of students and faculty, so that students, even if attendance is less, can still attend the examination. So they would not be debarred for lack of attendance if they are involved with the startup. A break of semester or year without it showing on your result is the other thing that is very important in terms of nurturing. And in case of faculty, allow a year, sometimes maybe up to 2 years, as a sabbatical or as any other kind of leave. And also allow them to enroll in part-time, full-time management programs related to innovation, entrepreneurship, and venture development. Because all these would actually be building people and nurturing them up into entrepreneurs. And then how would you nurture innovations and startups? In other ways, one is allow use of infrastructure facility, provide mentorship support, and also facilitate in various areas, not only technology development, but in design thinking, fundraising, financial management. I'll just run through these, maybe even marketing and brand development, which is something that incubation centers really help you with, particularly students who have no knowledge about this, and also an understanding of laws and regulations that affect business. Because this is something somebody who comes up with an idea and is able to even scale it up may not know. And also enable linking them to seed fund or angel fund or venture fund providers. And in return of such services, the institute is allowed to take a small percentage of equity or stake, whatever it is. So it could be cash, it could be kind. But the percentage is limited to 9.5 by the NISP. So institutes must follow and comply with this limit. The next aspect we saw is related to IPR, that is product ownership rights for technologies. Particularly when institute facilities and funds are used, the IPR should not be the inventors, it should be jointly inventors and institutes with a kind of sharing. Every institute should have its rules. ICT has its rules, which I will discuss when we come to ICT. And jointly, the product could be licensed to others. And the license fee could be taken in different ways. It could be a one-time fee, it could be a royalty, or it could be equity. But the challenge with equity is all institutes may not be allowed to hold equity as per the current statutes. So you may need to create a special purpose vehicle, which is a Section 8 company, so that company can hold equity, and we are showing that in our policy, which we will see later. The next aspect is the organizational capacity, human resources, and incentives. So you must have here very passionate staff who have strong innovation, entrepreneurial, industrial experience. Whether experience is there or not, behavior and attitude is singularly important. And I think this is very critical for any faculty member who may not be an innovator or an entrepreneur, but the behavior and attitude towards innovation and entrepreneurship of the faculty is crucial for moving innovation and entrepreneurship in an institute and to create the I&E culture. Now, one of the methods is to depute faculty for training so that they get to understand many salient features which may not happen through self-learning. You can have guest lectures, which I think every institute does, and also encourage faculty, staff, and students to do courses on innovation, entrepreneurship management, and venture development. And along with all this, create a reward. So maybe if faculty do a course on this, then you can reward them with something or reward them with a position that gives them charge of innovation. There could be very many ways of rewarding faculty, students, staff to create incentives, and that would be a reason for a person to enter the I&E space. And then you have a very important task of creating an innovation pipeline, because this is not a one-day affair. It's something that we are beginning and we want it to continue over the years. So spreading awareness and its role in career development or employability, very, very critical. Students should be encouraged to develop an entrepreneurial mindset. And for that, all these hackathons, workshops, boot camps that we have been doing over the past 2-3 years, all of them are very critical here. Awards and recognition, I'm sure every institute has that already. And IIC establishment, which is very critical, as per the guidelines, and allocate appropriate budget, because there's no point in having an IIC and when a student comes, you say, no, we don't have the funds, so we can't help you. No, it is important to have a budget for ideation, at least in the IIC. May not be for entrepreneurship level funding, but for ideation, a budget must be allocated. And networking events are a must here, because that networking plays a very critical role. Particularly, we have seen that when there is a young entrepreneur who comes and talks to students, we find that the auditorium gets full, even if the lecture is at 6:30. That's the kind of excitement they generate. And then there are at least 20 of those students who stay back and keep talking and interacting. And I'm sure at the end of it, 3 or 4 may get motivated. So that is the path. Now, what else is said? So that was the general gist on what it must cover in terms of promoting innovation and entrepreneurship. Now, when you're saying promote it, allow faculty, allow students, what are the rules? So here, the faculty can be an owner, could be a promoter, could be a mentor, consultant, or an on-board member of the startup. So all various methods of association should be allowed. That's the first important thing. Develop a policy on conflict of interest so that there is no confusion. The guidelines are clear, and even if faculty are allowed, they know what are the do's and what are the don'ts, and they have to follow those rules. So once those rules are clear, there is no problem for the institute and there is no problem for the faculty because there's no gray area. Faculty knows, yes, I'm allowed to do this, I'm not allowed to do this, and therefore everybody plans. Now, the startup could be only faculty with students, it could be faculty of other institutes, alumni, entrepreneurs, so do not restrict that it should be only your institute people. One person from the institute can bring in 5 others from elsewhere. Promote that also. So that also should be promoted. Proper rules must be in place for association of others, sharing with others, everything. And in case of selection of a faculty startup by an outside national or international accelerator, leave to be provided. For instance, you do not have in the institute place to incubate or take it forward, but they have applied for a grant, but they have to go there and work. That must be allowed. So leave provision to be given as sabbatical. Maybe they already have leave, they will be allowed to take without challenges saying, okay, no, the term is ending. No, the institute administration must go all out to make all adjustments and support the faculty and not come in the way of the faculty. That's very, very critical. And very important also is pedagogy and learning interventions. Because unless people who are into this are trained correctly, they may somewhere fall along the way. So you'd only have things that go up, up, up and then become failures. So we don't want failures. So you are going to have pedagogy and learning interventions. So you can have it through clubs, through bodies, through boot camps, workshops, etc. You can have an award which would motivate people to get really involved in this space, genuinely involved. And while we don't want failures, we have to tolerate and encourage failures through discussion, understand failures, and find a way to tide the problem. Innovation champions to be nominated, so that becomes very, very important thing among students. I want to become the innovation champion, will become the dream of some of the students who will really work very hard towards that. Education to be imparted, induction program to introduce innovation. Leveraging industry linkages, so you send them out for internship. So they are actually going to learn by being present in an entrepreneurship venture. And also pedagogical changes. For instance, student projects can be based on innovation. Student projects can be based around real life challenges. So you can give students a challenge and say, okay, now come up with some solution. And we find that at ICT, we have a student tech fest called Vortex, where this is there. One is real life challenges from industry. We find that doing extremely well. And students get very nice cash awards, and the industry takes the solution. So industry sponsors the award and takes the solution. So that's a really, really wonderful way to go ahead. And then you have collaboration, co-creation, business relationships, and knowledge exchange. So the institute should develop policy and guidelines for relationships with external stakeholders, including private industries. And knowledge exchange through collaboration and partnership should be part of the policy, And very important, in the institute, there should be a single point of contact SPOC, so that anybody who wants to understand anything about innovation comes to that one person first, then that person will send them to a second, third, fourth person. But there has to be one point of contact so that people are not hunting around, not knowing where to go. So this is again very, very critical. So with this, I complete the gist of the policy, and I'm coming now to the ICT story. So this is the Institute of Chemical Technology, an 85-year-old institute which was part of Mumbai University. But in 2008, we became a deemed university under UGC. And this is our campus in Bombay, a heritage stone building. In 2016, ICT expanded into 2 other campuses, one in Maharashtra, Jalna, near Aurangabad, and the other at Bhubaneswar in Odisha. So we've even moved out of the state. So slowly ICT is innovating and expanding. And that innovation is because we have very limited space. We could not grow here, so we found ways of growing outward. And I think that's good because we'll have more ICTs across the country. So let's look at the Institute of Chemical Technology Institute Startup Policy. And I'm putting up in this table of content just to show you that it is following exactly what the NISP recommends. So first, why you need the policy, then the council as the MHRD, so that is to create the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Then you have the innovation and technology transfer, that's the next step, that is protecting the rights. Then you have the pre-incubation and incubation programs. Then you have involvement of faculty, so how to get them involved, and the norms, etc. come there. Conflict of interest, very critical because that can break down any system. So we have a conflict of interest, and then of course we have a glossary which is terms so people can understand. So I'm going to present this to you in brief. So how are we looking at it? So we're looking at it as innovation and startup. And in fact, when we were framing it itself, the government was framing only a startup policy, which later suddenly came up as innovation and startup policy. But we decided that we would still frame it as innovation and startup policy because we said without an innovation ecosystem, without an ambience of innovation, no startups could happen. So we were very happy when we saw that it came out as the NISP and not just NSP. So we have the Innovation Council, and this is the MHRD framework that we follow. We're going to have an ICT Center for Innovation and Technology Transfer, which would look at IPR and technologies. And then we're going to have the ICT Venture Pre-Incubation and Incubation programs. So first is pre-incubation, then the incubation in 2 phases, 1 and 2. You'll understand as I go along why we are doing it in these phases. So what is the purpose of the council? It is to create a vibrant innovation ecosystem, startup entrepreneurship supporting initiatives, and to prepare the institute for the ARIA ranking. Now, what we have done is, in addition to the members that are proposed by MHRD, we have added the E-Cell secretary. We have UG and PG, and we have the E-Cell faculty in charge. And now we have innovation ambassadors who are nominated. So all of them who are nominated as innovation ambassadors, we have taken in. And it so happens that they have now, all of them happen to be anyway members of the council. But this is very important because we already had an E-Cell at ICT. And when the Innovation Council came, the E-Cell and those students, these students, they didn't know what's happening. They said they are doing this activity, we are doing this activity. I said E-Cell and innovation should come together and work. You don't lose your identities, but you work together. So collaboration is something we brought in. The first year was very tough. The second year was better. And now the third year, they are working in excellent collaboration. So the activities are shared between E-Cell and Innovation Council, and they get involved jointly. So what happens is in that process, the ecosystem is expanding automatically. And ultimately, that's one of the goals, to create an ecosystem, to generate the numbers, to generate the interest. So this strategy of having the faculty in charge and the secretaries of the ECEL in the council as members has played a very critical role in doubling the innovation activities in the institute. So this I will not read out because this is the MHRD charter, but these are our initiatives. So let's come down here. So we have not created all of them because the policy is just out, but this is what we plan to do. Some we are doing, some we are not. So we have the e-club. We're going to have an ICT launchpad online, ICT fireside chats, ICT venture mentoring service, ICT pitch, ICT solve, ideas to POC, ICT angel forum, ICT startup internship. So these are our innovation internships that are planned, and we've started on working on them one by one. Then we have the innovation and technology transfer cell. So the mission is to be an effective interface with the industry to foster, promote, and sustain commercialization of innovations, patents, and technologies. And the constitution would be such that it would be a separate office and designed as a Section 8 company. And this would be done particularly as venture incubator in phase 2. And what is the charter of this? This charter, again, we have taken from the policy because we found it very, very comprehensive. So you're looking at creating partnerships. You're looking at how to license IPR to corporate. So here we'll have somebody suggesting, supporting, finding the links, raising funds, foster technology development, technical consultancy, R&D, training programs, etc. And also organize short-term courses on emerging technologies. So this brings in the newness that's happening in the industry continuously into the institute to serve as a catalyst for people to think different, to think new, to think innovative and novel. Then we come to pre-incubation. So the first is the ideas. When there is an idea, it will become a proof of concept. So for that proof of concept, we're also planning to create tinkering labs. And as of now, every research lab is open to students, provided a particular faculty is a mentor. So under a mentorship, they have access to labs. So that is something that is across ICT. It is not mentor specific, which is very, very important. Then we have pre-incubation. And in pre-incubation, you have training programs on entrepreneurship. A lot of services are provided. What are these services? These services are maybe to help them how to reach a customer, to find who's a target customer, to interact with customers, to find the market space. They're also taught about grants and funding programs and supported to apply for grants. And a very important grant that anybody can apply for are the BIRAC grants, which are up to rupees 50 lakhs. Fundraising, yes, that would be more by the faculty. And then networking opportunities. So during pre-incubation, they will be validating their ideas for technical feasibility, market viability. And after that, they would be approaching incubators or investors for entering the next level of entrepreneurship, in the step of entrepreneurship. So after pre-incubation, we have the venture incubation phase 1, where ICT will be setting up a venture incubator independently as a Section 8 company. And normally, if somebody wants to incubate here, they would need to incorporate a company before coming in or within 6 months of incubation. And currently, ICT is partnering with other incubators. We have a number of them listed here. This is not a complete list, but Cine IIT Mumbai, in fact, we have the CEO, Poini Bhatt on our IIC as representing venture, an incubation center close by. We are talking to NCL. They have approached us to conduct some programs jointly. One of our students is incubated in Riddle. which is at Somaya, which is part of the Somaya group. And the students have been participating in competitions from CCAM. In fact, one of our students in a recent competition got about 3 awards at this CCAM, the National Bio-Entrepreneurship Competition. So this is what we are planning immediately and moving ahead. But yes, we will plan our own venture incubator. And in phase 2, we will have a proper incubation center of 5,000 to 10,000 square feet as per the prevailing norms. Then it's already come down to 4,000, but we're planning at least 5,000, because if you go to this size, then you get support. You can have smaller centers, but you don't get support from the government for that. And here we are also planning, once we have this venture incubation phase 2, we will support external startups, and our faculty and maybe even PhD scholars can be associated as consultants or mentors. So here, what would be the role of this venture incubator vis-a-vis the startup? So the venture incubator will, on behalf of ICT, deal with startups right from selection, and then it would provide them the space, the permission to use laboratories and equipment. So there would be some setup in the incubator, but additional requirements would be at ICT laboratories. There would be advice on IPR protection, advice on business and financial structuring, very, very important. Mentoring would be provided, logistics support, advice on fundraising. So basically, lot of support needed to grow would be provided. And yes, they would also have the permission to use our brand of ICT Venture Incubator. Now we come to something that faculty and students would certainly be interested in knowing. So one is any permanent faculty member, staff, faculty on tenure, research associates, postdoctoral fellows, students having live registration, all of them can start a startup or get involved either on full-time or part-time basis in different capacities: promoter, advisor, consultant, any other approved role. So they can use specified physical and or intellectual resources of ICT as per prevailing rules. And the current definition of a startup is an entity in India incorporated less than 10 years ago and has an annual turnover less than 100 crores. So they should fit into this if they want to incubate. Now, the startup would be promoted by the members, not by ICT or by the venture incubator. No financial liabilities or reputational liability would accrue to ICT because of the startup. And participation will be a legitimate activity, and it will also be considered while evaluating annual performance, because you have metrics on which as API score for promotion of teachers. So this would contribute to API of the teacher. And the involvement during regular work hours or on leave is possible, but with prior approval. So very important, there'll be a proper application process before engagement. And how would they engage? Part-time, full-time. And when they engage full-time, they would avail a sabbatical as per norms up to 1 year, then special leave. But during special leave, there would be no payment. So even the permission would be given for 6 months and would be extended every 6 months. And beyond 1 year, it would be special leave, and no faculty has a right to demand, because this decision would be taken based on an understanding of whether the faculty is really involved in spending time. So very judicious decisions would be taken by a committee appointed. Now this is for students. So any research scholar or student. So here when we say student, we are talking of undergraduate students, and research scholars are the postgraduate students. So the compensation to the research scholar may be in cash, for which ICT norms for consultancy projects will be applicable to research scholars, but not to students. And that is so because all our research scholars get fellowship. Alternately, the research scholar could take shares instead of cash payment. So when you have a startup, normally there is no cash available. So therefore, even sharing in terms of equity or shares is allowed. Now, when shares are taken, a certain percentage would be offered to ICTVI on the same valuation terms, but students will not be required, meaning undergraduate students. And both students and research scholars will have to satisfy all norms, including attendance requirements, for the program of study in order to earn a degree. Now, they can be also full-time engaged, and they can ask for special leave up to 2 years. So normally, when a research scholar wants to take such leave, they must apply for approval. That is very important. And besides approval, they must establish the mode of engagement with the startup, which includes whether it is ICT technology, whether IPR is being licensed to the startup, and during that period, they will not receive any fellowship. Now, and the student can, however, receive compensation from the startup in cash or shares, which will not be shared during that period. Now, there could also be a case where the work is done at ICT and then it is taken into the startup, in which case the norms for consultancy will be applicable to the research scholars, not to the students. And again, the terms for attendance, etc., would have to be complied with. So while provisions are given, it is not open-ended. There is a control. Now, what are the guidelines for equity sharing? Now, ICT Venture Incubator may take 2% to 9.5% equity stake as recommended by NISP. So there is no restriction on shares that ICT members can take, but they will not spend more than 50 man days in a year of office time on the startup in any role. And in case of a largely equity model, if it's only an equity model, the startup may be given a cooling period of 1 year, extendable up to 2 years, or until the time of the first investment by an external investor, whichever is earlier, to arrive at the sharing. So, point is, you're not going to stress out somebody who's really keen to do something. Now we come to guidelines regarding IPR. So IPR, you could have sharing in different ways. One is in terms of equity. The other is in terms of a single upfront fee or a one-time technology fee, or it could be as royalty. And at the current moment, ICT IPR policies will apply, and these are being, we are looking at it, relooking at this and kind of making them more robust, and then that would become applicable. So the same this policies would apply to ICT members even during retirement, superannuation, or change of job. And then, yes, conflict of interest was something that NISP recommends. So we have identified, I'm not showing you all that data, it's there in the document, anybody can go and look at it on our website. So it's typical conflict of interest situations have been listed out. Guidelines for management of conflict of interest and resolution of conflicts has also been listed out. So a lot of time has been spent, and the committee that was involved in deciding this ISP for ICT was chaired by Mr. Nitin Deshmukh, who is managing partner of Kotak Equity. He's our alumnus. I was the co-chair of the committee, and we had number of other members. We had totally about 10 members in the committee, a lot of outsiders and some of the faculty. So that's how this entire policy was designed. So with this, I will go to the ICT success story. So one of our success story is the area ranking to 2020, which was announced sometime in February, where we were number 1. So that has triggered and brought in a lot of excitement into ICT, saying now we must keep it up. So that is very innovation enabling this kind of success story. And even before this, as a very important requirement of what NISP says, where it said that a very senior faculty must be put in charge of the innovation initiative, ICT created, we had a Dean Research, Consultancy and Resource Mobilization. That terminology is now changed to Dean Research and Innovation, and I have been appointed in that position since October 1st, and I'm looking after the innovation. So that is also something that we've complied with, having a senior faculty who would lead the innovation initiative. In 2019, that is the first year of the Innovation Council being set up, where I was the president, but I have stepped down as president after I took over as dean. So from December 21st, that is just 4-5 days ago, my colleague, Professor Prashant Kharkar, has taken over as president IIC. You can see his name at the bottom end here. So he's president IIC. And these are 2 success stories. So in the innovation and POC competition, every institute was asked to submit 4 POCs. We had submitted 4, of which 3 went to the final round in Delhi, and of which 2 won awards. Pragvi Det got the first prize, and Raktada. So Pragvi Det is pregnancy determination in cattle. It's a test kit. And Raktada is blood group determination in humans, and it's a full blood group profiling, and it is point of care. So you don't need to go to a lab. You just take a drop and you get the entire, all the blood group requirements on the spot. So that was Raktada. So that got the award. So both these innovations incidentally have come out of my laboratory, my research group. Both of them, Amit Lokhande and Pooja Todke, are doing their PhD with me. And very recently, National Bio-Entrepreneurship Competition, we had a PhD from the chemical engineering, Prerna Tomke, who won 3 major awards there for an innovation on water purification. So we've been doing very well on the innovation front. More importantly, both of them received entrepreneurial training. Amit was sent to Korea and Pooja to Canada, and they have been nominated as innovation ambassadors by MHRD. So ICT has 2 out of the 18 nominated innovation ambassadors across the country, which is a very huge success for us. Amit is continuing this project, and he's pre-incubated in BioRiddle, Mumbai, with a grant of 6 lakhs received from AICT MHRD, and he is moving along the entrepreneurship line. So he has dreams. I mean, a student who wanted to go abroad and do a postdoc, this one award changed everything for him, and he now dreams of becoming an entrepreneur. So that is, again, something very important for us. We have our policy in place. So the Institute of Chemical Technology Innovation and Startup Policy is already uploaded. This is one of the latest initiatives where we are what we are promoting. So we are promoting students for entrepreneurial training. So this is at GDC, that is at IIT Chennai, that is Gopal Krishna Deshpande Center for Incubation. So this is GDC Incubate. So we have 3 teams from ICT and 3 faculty leads, Dr. Amit Pratap, who's also our eCell coordinator. We have myself here leading this team who's working on a learning management system. And then we have 3 other faculty mentoring this particular team of students, which is a polysaccharide for wound healing. So here, all of them are undergoing training to become possible entrepreneurs. It's a very aggressive training over 2 months, and we really look forward to them benefiting a lot. So when it comes to innovation and entrepreneurship, ICT is being very proactive. Now, very important is we are linked also with our alumni. So when it comes to fundraising, that can be one of the major challenges. But as far as the Innovation Council and the initial POC ideation is concerned, we have what I would like to call a Mr. Kuber. He's not, his name is not Kuber, but he's already given us 25 lakhs for innovation. And he says he will keep adding to that the minute it keeps depleting. So we have funds, but what is important is having funds is one thing, utilizing it judiciously is quite another thing. So it's not that we have funds and we just throw it into innovations that may not work, but we're going to use it very judiciously and move. Now, what is the other thing that we do for innovation and entrepreneurship? We try and identify students. We don't leave it to students to come to us. We try and go all out and get students. For instance, we had an idea competition once, and we had this student, Saad Jamal, when he was in first year, now he's in the third year, the first year of ISC. He came in with a idea, which was not a very good idea. But whenever students apply for the idea contest, we always tell them, we are not looking only at your idea, we are looking also at you. Your idea may not be good, but if you are passionate, we will give you an idea. And if you like that idea, you can work on it. So that is also a strategy we are following. We are not leaving it only to students. So Saad, we put him on to another group and we said, your idea somehow is not sounding good enough to the entire team of us who were evaluating. But we put him, and then that motivated him. So that didn't let him down. And even when we choose for a POC or something, although we can send only 4, even others we tell them, if you're good and you're not in the top 4, but you're likely to be a winner, not necessarily there, we will still fund you and support you. So what we are doing is very proactive mentoring to ensure that this ecosystem is created and it starts flowering, because that's very important. The minute it starts flowering and people see that garden, then everybody gets attracted. So like butterflies, we'll have more and more coming in. So that is our idea as we move on. So our journey continues and hopefully on the path of more and more successes. So with this, again, let me thank a Government College of Engineering for inviting me to deliver this talk. I hope you all found it useful and interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Participants can now ask their questions one by one in the chat box.
Due to the failure of the system here.
Can I ask a question with the kind permission of the President?
For the presentation, why is
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Actually, ma'am, I have a doubt. Basically, can we link up the academic institutions? Can we link up with the already established SMSCs, or we can even say MSMEs?
Link up in what way?
I mean, if they already have a product, but then it needs some kind of innovation to meet the industry standards. Fine, there are small firms who are struggling to have industry standard project or industry standard product, rather I should say, because they do have an innovative idea, but then they are not meeting the like I'll quote an example of the post box invention of BK Chakravarti sir. See, postbox was already existing, but then it needed some invention. But however, the innovative postbox had to look similar to the existing one so that it is readily absorbed by the consumers. Okay. So people are striving to make new things, but then this new thing is not readily absorbed in the market because it does not resemble to existing one. See, you want the same look, but you want better performance. So in this, the small firms are struggling. So they need help of researchers, young researchers. But however, they cannot hire them. So under this NISP policy, an institute link up students so that these get involved in the development of such kind of products. and also if possible some kind of funding and the necessary, I mean both, even the MSMEs will contribute and the institutes through NISP can contribute. Can such a joint venture be possible under NISP policy?
From what I understand, it may not typically come under the NISP policy directly, but yes, indirectly. See, basically here, what you're looking at is only the innovation. You're not looking at the startup, right?
Yeah. That's
So,
true.
You already have industry institute interaction in very many ways, manifold ways.
Yeah.
One of the ways is industry comes with a problem.
Okay.
And you solve the problem. So that is certainly an ideation,
Right.
problem solving. So that can certainly be done. But how you would do it, you have to look at it like how we do some of these, we call it industry defined problem at our Tech Fest. So this problem is given to students, and then groups of students take it up, Some 10 problems are put, and we have sometimes some 60, 70 groups of 2 or 3 students, sometimes up to 4 from across the country who for this. And then say one problem is taken by 6 groups. So the 6 groups will then make the presentation and they get a cash award.
Okay.
For that. But the idea, if that industry likes, they will take it. It becomes their right. So this is something that is done. The other is the faculty can directly take it as a project.
Okay.
And charge us maybe not a huge amount, but a small amount to cover the costs, etc. And maybe pay the student a small internship fee as a motivation.
Right.
And if it is a slightly bigger thing, a consultation for the faculty also. So that can be taken. So that may not come under NISP. It would come under Industry Institute Interaction.
Okay, I see. Right. Ma'am, one more question. Now, we had a startup cell in my earlier institute, and we did support some startups. Like we had a chain of hotel concept, Trophy. Now, these students started it. When they started it, they were in the 2nd year. Till the final year, it had come to the market level. But then what happened was the students graduated. Now, in such situations, the legalities involved are quite complex. So can we get some kind of legal, what you can say, assistance? Because see, when we have a group of people working in core innovation, they definitely lack this kind of knowledge. I mean, the legalities involved. So where can we look forward for such kind of a help?
See, for this, the best is to approach an incubation center.
Okay.
They are the ones who will give you all kinds of support, right from the legal support. And what is it? I didn't get what they were doing. But if it is something that can be commercialized.
Yeah. That was already in the market. Trophy is a chain of hotels. Trophy, I mean, what do they do is that they linked up all the hotels in Nagpur, and they prepared the complete website where the customers can log in and they can get some discount if they book a table in a hotel through Trophy. And now what Trophy people would get is that giving customer to a particular hotel, if it is getting 10%, out of that 10%, it was giving 5% to the customer. So it was like advantage of the customer also and the service provider also.
They were earning. No,
right.
This is something that is done by students, and they don't need anything other than a Wi-Fi for this, right? So we would allow them to take it and move out of the institute, and you take it up as your business and go ahead.
Okay. So the institution can hand over.
Institute can tell them to do it, because in our case also you saw undergraduates, we are allowing them to do and go out.
Okay, but if at all, like I just gave an example, but if at all some kind of monetary things are involved, like if this NISP cell has already sponsored the startup,
that's what, then there is that sharing, no? So what is told there is the maximum amount that the venture incubator can take. Okay. Other than that, the sharing has to be arrived at depending on whether there are 2 people, 3 people, 4 people involved. So that will depend. So each case would have to be treated separately, but there is a way out.
Okay, okay. Fine. Under NISP, is there any provision of having a full-fledged legal advisor in the college?
In the venture center, you can't do it in the institute. Once you
Okay.
create that venture center, venture incubator, that
Okay.
would have, I didn't show all those details because it would be too boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No issue, no
You
issue.
would have a technology person, you would have an administrator, you would have a legal person, you would have
Okay.
somebody with IPR, understanding. So
Okay,
that
okay.
would be a very comprehensive office,
Okay.
which looks at all aspects of technology, IPR, equity, finance sharing, everything, including
Okay.
regulations, where you will have the legal department.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. It was really a blessing to hear you, ma'am, and high regards to your esteemed profile. I mean, it's an inspiration. I was blessed to hear you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, ma'am. Very nice presentation we had here at through this webinar. In fact, we are little working on the similar lines, and of course, our institute or institute's IIC is definitely a child in front of ICT. But I can share one thing, that our team members are very enthusiastic and they're very hardworking. And as a result, I would share that last year itself we got a ranking of 4.5 star something out of 5. Yeah. So it is just because of the various activities which are being conducted by various sales and clubs. We have separate drone club, we have separate robotics club, every branch association, students associations. So through all these clubs and sales, the students are actively working over there, and our innovation institute innovation council chairman Professor Kadam and NISP coordinator Professor Randhawa, they are regularly conducting the innovative activities, and as a result, what I said just now, that we got a ranking of 4.5 stars. So definitely I can assure you that within next few years our institute will be at a good level, and I expect some more things from you, because you are a grown up, you have grown up council, in fact IIC with you, and definitely your guidance will be a boost up the working at our institute also. Secondly, there are 2-3 things which I had when I was watching your presentation. One thing is related to the funding. As you have said that you have a separate fund that has been raised by the raised through, say, CSR or some industry institute interaction. Definitely we can also adopt the same thing over here, but there are still certain constraints. Being a purely government institution, we have our joint director, then director, who are the controlling authorities, and with their permission only we can proceed further as far as financial matters are concerned. So can you give some tip that how to overcome these constraints and how to overcome these limitations? It will be definitely helpful to us, because earlier yours was also a government institution, but now it is the total autonomous and deemed university. Yeah.
We are still a government institution. We
Yeah,
are still
yeah,
a
yeah.
state government
Yeah.
university. We are not a private deemed university.
Right. But
It's
it's a
very
deal.
government controlled.
Ah,
But we have a history of openness and all that. So
exactly.
that is what takes us through our leadership, etc. See,
Yeah.
in terms of funding, one is you can try and apply to government sources like DBT, DST,
Okay.
and AICT and all for funding. So there you don't have a challenge.
Right.
Again, CSR donation, I don't know whether it would fit under innovation.
Ah, yeah.
So
CSR fund. Yeah.
may not fit under innovation. So what we have from industry is a well-wisher alumnus donation who is very passionate about innovation.
Exactly.
Okay. But
Okay.
and being a young institute, you don't have alumni resource. So
Yeah.
that is okay. But I think government you can approach, and you can always approach industry, not necessarily
Right.
through CSR.
Right.
For instance, something they want done. So
Mm-hmm.
for that, you can take money from them, and
Right.
some of the money can go to the IIC. Because
Okay.
we don't do, it is not that we are buying and selling with them. It is not break even. So
Okay.
you estimate something. So in that you
Right.
can estimate a little 10-15% for IIC.
Yeah. Yeah, surely we will take a note of it, and definitely we will be in touch with you, and our faculty coordinator Randhawa ma'am will trouble you
Not
for
at all.
yeah.
It would be my pleasure to help.
Yeah.
Anytime ICT is always open to helping others.
Thank you so much,
I,
ma'am. You have given proper insight how to work and how to carry out the activities at NISP. Thank you very much.
Ma'am, I too have a question, ma'am.
yeah, please.
Ma'am, in this NISP, faculty is playing a major role, and the points that you have discussed is the sabbatical leaves for the faculty and the revenue sharing. And being the government institution where the consultancy GR is also in place and the faculty leaves has to be sanctioned by the higher ups. How can we go ahead with this?
So you will have to plan and do it in advance. That would be important. So if you plan the time and keep the time lead, then it should not be a problem. And ultimately, it depends on the administration open view. And that is why NISP has come in, where NISP is telling the administration, keep an open view and allow faculty. Allow faculty. So that is the government is kind of, not dictating, but saying that in very open way, that do not be restrictive. So beyond that, I don't think there is anything else I could say except point out that government is already saying that in the document.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, I also have a question.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, I am Swati Ringe from Father Agnel Bandra from
Okay.
Mumbai. We are having IIC council since last 3 years. This is the third year that we are participating, and we have many students. Participate in the IIC idea competitions, and few like this time 3 teams selected for the final round. And as per the NISP policy, so we have asked for the budget, and the budget will get sanctioned by the management, like 2% or 5% they have said, no, that college or institute can keep.
They have suggested that college or institute must keep that much available.
Yeah. So like how to utilize this money? Like what are the things where we have to utilize this fund? Like we give the prize money as for idea competition. So some money we use for that, or some money we use for giving the remuneration for any event. But
See,
exactly, I'm expecting us to use for some idea to POC conversion or something. So can
yes.
you just?
Suppose somebody comes up with an idea and wants to convert it to POC, and there are some things they need to purchase from the market and all. For that, you must give them funding.
Acha, So we can utilize for that also
You
this fund.
must actually. That should be a major utilization.
Acha.
Idea to POC.
Okay. Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Ma'am, there is one question that Are you at ICT conducting certain sessions to attract funding from investors? Some sessions like pitching ideas and all that.
Yeah, no, we have not yet done any pitching in front of investors. Not yet.
Okay. There is one more question in the chat box.
Okay.
It is saying during special leave for students, does his or her course duration also increase, or we are just allowing that much absency to that student?
No, if a student takes a year leave in between, okay, and works on the company or the incubation, wherever, then they have to come back and complete the course properly.
Okay.
Because that was said, no, in the NISP, it was there that the student must, for instance, let us take an undergraduate student instead of MTech. Undergraduate student misses one semester. You will not just pass them in that semester. They have to do that semester. But if somebody takes a break, it is shown as a break in the result, right? Here it will not be shown as a break. So it doesn't affect their further career.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. I think no more questions are there. It was a very nice session. Yeah, we all have enjoyed it a lot, and I invite Ayush for proposing vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your experience and knowledge with us. Indeed, it was a great session. It will really help every one of us in future. This webinar would not have been possible without the guidance and coordination of Dr. J.B. Randhawa ma'am. With this, I, on behalf of IIC, express our deepest sense of gratitude to the Honorable Speaker Dr. Padma Devarajan ma'am. Despite her busy schedule, she has accepted our invitation and delivered a webinar on such an intricate topic. Her guidance will certainly benefit all the participants for taking a policy decision at their respective institutions. We are very much thankful to our principal sir for his constant encouragement and support. Thanks are also due to respected Dr. Kshitija Kadam ma'am, President IIC, for her valuable guidance. We are also thankful for all the faculty members of this institution and from other organizations for showing their interest and enthusiasm for this webinar. It encourages us for being more innovative to provide viable solutions. Interest shown by students and participants is also acknowledged with thanks. Last but not least, I express my heartfelt thanks to event management team, PR team, publicity team, and technical team of IIC for managing the event. With this, I declare that the session is ended. Thank you to each and everyone for their presence and participation. For participants, a feedback form will be provided through WhatsApp group. Once you fill this form, you will receive e-certificate for participation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
निघते बेटा मी